So welcome to our project recipe class. This is Cheryl, Colleen, and Kari, Consistently Creative Crew. And tonight we're doing Creative Memories Nordic Winter Project Recipe. And this is a really nice project recipe. It's pretty easy, pretty simple, but very versatile. So we were sharing a little bit before we started recording that you need 2 base papers, 2 designer papers, and you're going to see all sides of both of those designer papers. So you really would like some good contrast, and your trimmer, some adhesive, and 1 punch. The design as Creative Memories did it and displayed it here is an edge punch, and they used it 3 times. I used a knockout punch on my original sample, and I used the same one 3 times, but you could very easily use 3 different punches or 2 punches and a separate punch. You can definitely mix and match whatever you would like to do. And Cheryl, I think, is going to give us a peek at what some of the Nordic winter papers and embellishments look like before we get started. But for everybody here, that'll also give you some time to grab your papers.
All right. So here is Nordic Winter stickers. I'm just going to flip through real quick. Those are really sweet. This is the mats, and they are different on both sides. So the ones with the words have the same words, vertical and horizontal, but the others are different on the fronts and backs. So there is a very nice assortment of the 2 different sizes. And my favorite in this collection are these amazing embellishments. I don't know if you can see it, but they are slightly embossed. So some of there's texture going on here. And so I have them all spread out on this piece of paper so you can see them. And there's quite a few. And one of my favorite things, these are the epoxy, I guess you would call them gems or stickers. They're kind of flat. They don't pop up as much as their normal gems, but they are sparkly. They're really nice, very nice. Lots of them and different color on the video, you can't see, honestly, how pretty these colors are. There's green, blue, gold, and like a silver tone. The colors don't show up very well, but they're very pretty. And then here is the papers. Really beautiful, and I'm very excited because if you've seen any of my videos, you know that our yard is loaded with deer, so I'm so excited because there's deer on this, and then there's deer in the embellishments. So anyway, so that is Nordic Winter.
Thanks, Cheryl. That looks like great paper for you to use with all those photos you've shared. All right, and I am going to share my screen for a moment. Okay, so hopefully you can see, here's the project recipe enlarged. So this is the one that they did. And one thing that Creative Memories always provides to us is an advisor guide. So if you're looking at different papers in the Nordic Winter Designer paper set, you can look at these suggested pairings that they have here, and this would give you a guide of things that might look just a little bit different. And I'll just leave that up on the screen for a moment. And does anybody who's with us have any questions before we get started? All right, well, let's get started. So I just want to give you a couple of tips before we get started. The guide that's here, you do want to pay attention to any patterns that you have before you cut. And also that's true with your borders, because you're going to be flipping some of these over, and you're going to, when you're punching, if your punch is not perfectly symmetrical, like the punch that I originally used, I couldn't lay them on top of each other and have them be like shadowed, like what they have here on this image, where they kind of have the exact same pattern of the punch lined up. one on top of the other. So if you do want them stacked on top of each other, any of the pieces of paper that we're going to have to flip over and do the reverse, you're going to want to make certain you start punching from the same end. So you're going to want to flip the paper over and then punch. So just something to be aware of as far as direction. And the other thing as far as direction, this A and B, the first things that we're going to cut are going to end up laying on your paper in these spots right here. So if direction is going to matter on your first paper, you want them to be cut just like this. This is the right side up as we're putting it in there to trim it into two pieces. So hopefully that made sense. The first thing we're going to do though is we're going to actually cut this part. This is piece C. We're going to cut that off. So we're going to end up having to rotate the pattern 90 degrees, cut that off, and then cut the two pieces in half. So your first designer paper, which I am using this, I am actually using Winter Days collection. So, and I do not have a direction on this paper that's really going to matter. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to cut 1 3/4 inches off. And 1 3/4 inches is all the way over to on the right side of the trimmer mat to that very last line. So 1 3/4 inches. And this piece we're going to set aside because this is one we're going to end up punching. So put that one aside. And now we're going to turn our paper back over to its front side, or to the right side up. We're going to cut it in half and cut at 7 inches. So these two pieces are going to just lay just like that on your paper. One on the right, one on the left. Put those. Now we're going to cut our other piece of paper and we're going to cut it all and then we're going to punch. So we're going to cut, again, if direction is going to matter, especially as you're down here along the bottom, you're going to want to rotate it before you cut it. So if direction matters, rotate before you cut. So we're going to cut 2 3-inch long strips. And put those aside because we're going to punch those. And then a 2-inch piece. Put that aside because we're going to punch that. And then here's your first decision. They have a 4x6 mat and a 4x4 mat. You might have larger pictures, so you might want to use this one as 2 4x6s or 3 4x4s. So depending on what kind of photos you have, these two pieces that we're going to cut next are going to be mats, so you can make your choice of what you want to do with them. I'm going to do 2 4x6s. And that is all the cutting. That went amazingly fast, right? How's everybody doing? Very quiet.
Good. Good.
Okay. All right. So I just want you to take a look at the 4 pieces that you have that you're going to punch before you start punching them. So you have 2 wide pieces, and then you have a 2-inch piece, and then I think this was a 1 3/4 piece. So you probably want to take a quick look at them and see how are you going to want to lay them out, or which one's going to be. Are you going to have this, the wide piece, which side is the one that you're going to have up? Because that's probably going to make it's going to affect which side you're gonna start your punch on. So you may want to take a quick look at those and make a decision about what you want to do, which way you want the papers to go. So just take a quick look at those because it will matter as you're punching. So get your papers kind of right side up in the way you're going to want to punch them. So that way you'll be able to have them stack up and staggered for light to dark or however the punch orientation is. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I'm going to start by punching my whitest piece first, and you want to line up the edge if you're have a punch that has the line on the frame. You line up the edge of your paper with that black mark on the punch. I guess you can't. There you go. So you can see that, and then you punch, and then you slide it on over. And you're going to do that with all of your pieces. And as your pieces get too narrow, if you're using one of this style of borders punches, you can use the Post-it note trick to be able to see where the edge of your paper is once you line it into the punch. I'll show you that on my next sheet. So now with this piece of paper, when I slide it in, I have no idea where the edge of the paper is. So in order to help me see that, I'd use a Post-it note, and I align the edge of my Post-it note up with the edge of the paper. So that way, when I slide it in, I can see it. Now, since I want to use this Post-it note for the second sheet of paper, I'm going to line it up really close to the edge so that it actually doesn't get punched. Punch out my mountains. So what papers are people using tonight, and what punches are you using?
I'm using Nordic, and what was the previous mountain punch to the one that just came out? Alpine?
I'm using Alpine. Is it this one?
Yes, I like that one.
What about anybody else who's doing the layout with us tonight?
I'm doing Devotion.
Devotion, and
I'm using Secret Garden.
Secret Garden. That's beautiful. What
With the
punches
tree
are
line
you
punch.
using?
Secret Garden? Painted Garden?
Secret Garden.
Secret Garden's older.
The way back, that purple one
The
that was
purple?
so pretty. Oh,
Yeah.
Yep.
wow. That's old and beautiful. That
It's
was
one of
one of
my
my
favorites.
favorite. I know. I'm surprised you have any of it left because it's so pretty.
I do have some left.
Wow. You've been hoarding it then.
I have been.
I've got a combination of Tropic Time and some of the papers. I believe one of them is from Seaside.
Oh, nice.
And for a punch, I actually used the one of the Wave Border Maker punches.
Oh, yeah.
That'd
Okay.
be good. Oops.
That'll
Oh,
work.
oh, man, I'm running out of
Right. How's everybody doing?
So far, so good.
Okay.
All right.
Now then, the only tricky thing to think about before doing the rest of your layout is obviously if you're following what I did, the widest border punch is going on the bottom edge of your paper. And then whichever your two papers are, you're gonna have to cut it so you have 5 inches on this side and 7 inches on this side. So you're gonna want to cut it so that 5 inches is on the left and 7 inches are on the right, so that they fit properly.
You can
Did you
So-
cut first and then punch, or
Well,
punch?
you,
then
I
cut?
cut it the long 3-inch strip, then I punched it. And now I'm gonna cut it into 2 pieces to be able to put it on the layout itself.
one of this, one of them.
Both of them
Wait a
are
minute.
gonna
Wait a
end up on the layout.
Well, they're all gonna end up on.
Well, they're all gonna end up, sorry, the 2 that are different sizes are actually going to be cut in half, and you're gonna put 5 inches all the way
Oh, I
on the
gotcha.
left, on the left page, and 7 inches all the way on the right page.
Got it.
Okay. Now, because I easily get confused, I like to do this by bringing my punched strip to the closest edge of the trimmer to myself, and then I can line this up my edge with the 5-inch and cut it. Because if I do that up here, I have to try to be really careful to either have it so that the very tips of the mountains are really straight and flush there, which I can definitely make a mistake. Or if I try to flip it over so that the straight edge is up at the top, I really have to think too hard about what dimensions I want to cut it. So I brought it down here and I'm cutting it at 5 inches. And now it will fit nicely on my page. So again, the other little strip that's only one of a kind, line it up at 5 inches and cut it into 2 pieces. And the assembly of the layout is very, very simple. So you're gonna layer your borders however you would like them. And this is a great use of repositionable adhesive. And that's pretty much it. So are there any questions from anybody? And then I will pause it and start putting some adhesive on it, and then we can come back at the end and share some of our samples. All right, Colleen. Okay, so we paused the video while I adhered everything down. People have been working on their layouts, and I just wanted to share a couple. This was one of the options that I had for putting on a lot of photos, which I thought made it a very versatile layout. And one thing that I had shared before we started, I'll share it again on the video before we quit, but I had done the layout digitally, and you could have actually switched your right and your left pages and done your layout like this. So I'm going to ask a few people who are here who kind of got their layouts in a place where they're willing to share and have it be on the video. So we can get those on here. So who do we have?
Well, I can share mine.
Awesome. Thanks, Pat. And right, you were using Tropic Time. Oh, look at the waves. Oh, I like the waves.
Oh,
That's
pretty.
really nice.
Unfortunately, Kari, I had started to punch some of this until I heard you say, don't forget to flip over your waves to make them in the right direction. So a couple of mine are the wrong way, but
Yeah,
it still looks good.
my leaves were going different directions. It's all good. It's all
Yep.
good. I think it's great. Awesome.
That looks nice.
Okay, anybody else that we have here who's good to share? Let's look at Cheryl's table.
I was just trying to stick on some photo markers there, but
Oh,
Oh,
and you've got, show
sorry,
us,
I'm off the table. Hang on here.
yeah, so we can see your trees down there.
Oh my. Oh goodness.
Oh, that looks really nice.
Charming village in the way. I don't know how I went being uneven, but anyway, so
That's great. I like how the
nice.
trees look. Actually,
Yeah,
looking
so
them
that
on
was-
yours, it looks nicer than the actual image on our printout with your mountains.
Oh, okay.
The
Hmm.
mountain colors show up much better on the video than I think they do on the printed project
Okay.
recipe.
I wonder if it's because it's a different the mountain punch is different.
I don't know.
Hmm.
I don't
Anyway,
know.
so I don't know
Looks
what
great.
pictures I'm going to use, so I haven't cut this up yet, so
Yes, yes, makes sense.
I got to get my deer photos. I'm excited.
Awesome. Okay, anyone else?
Oh.
If not, okay, well,
Yeah.
we will stop the recording, but thank you very much. I'm just actually going to pause it because I'm going to come back and add the digital, but thanks for joining us.
Christine, did you
fine.
finish